Hello, my name is Dustin Jolly. What's your name?
Kelly Norwood.
Hi, Kelly Norwood. Who would we talk to about potentially doing an interview with the CEO of Avista or other executives that make extraordinary amounts of money, over $100,000 or $250,000 a year, way over $500,000, $600,000, $700,000? Let me introduce you. What's your name?
I'm Debbie Samak.
Debbie Samak. Can you spell your last name to the camera, please?
SIMOCK.
Okay. Debbie, I am Dustin with BelieveChange.com. I also volunteer for multiple organizations within the Spokane community, and I really see what is happening on a level of poverty within Spokane. We have senior citizens that are not able to pay their Avista bills, or they're choosing if they're going to buy their medications or if they're going to pay their Avista bill. We have people out there that cannot find a job in Spokane County or in the nation. And Avista's executives make $3-point-something million a year. I know I did the math, and it was over $266,000 a month. And Avista is allowed to continue to be a monopoly and charge customers more and more and more. And we see CEOs out here that make tons of money. Why is that?
Well, first off, what's important to know is that executive compensation makes up only less than 1/2 of 1 penny of every dollar that a customer pays in rates.
Not to be rude or cut you off there, but I really don't care if they make less of 1/2 of 1 penny of 1 penny. What I care about is they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. The CEO making millions of dollars a year. What I care about is me as a citizen of the United States cannot find a decent job. And corporations like Avista taking power that they get here and selling it to other states for millions and millions of dollars. What I don't understand, ma'am, is why the CEOs and why the executives of Avista are allowed to make so much money.
We cannot address the nationwide issues. I can't speak to that. What I can speak to is Avista and the fact that all executive compensation is not borne by ratepayers. That's important to know, that even though less than 1/2 of 1 penny goes towards executive compensation, that is not all borne by customers. Because Avista has not only the utility side of the house, but it also has an unregulated subsidiary. So some of the executive compensation does come from shareholders, and that is not borne completely by shareholders or by customers.
Do you have that percentage?
It's roughly 50-50. Roughly 50% is borne by shareholders as well as by customers. And the amount that is included in rates has to be approved by the Utility Commission, the commission that is overseeing this public hearing tonight.
And that's why we're here tonight, is just to try to get some answers from Avista. We're here tonight not to get run around by Avista, but try to figure out what is going on.
How are their wages determined? How do you determine the wages?
The wages are set by market. There are salary surveys taken.
Tell me a little bit more about a salary survey. What's that?
The executive compensation is benchmarked against other utilities of comparable size and other industries.
Okay.
So basically you compare to the other greedy utility monopolies out there and see how much those greedy utility monopolies or corporations are paying their huge CEOs, and then you base your statistics on that.
It's market-driven rate based on compensation for other executives who procure utilities. This is a regulated utility, and all of our expenses are reviewed and must be approved by the Utility Commission.
And see, me as a citizen, I question how Avista is regulated. I question if the regulation of Avista is for the people or is it for the corporations. I question Avista's morals in this as far as what they are really willing to do for their community. I question why customers of Avista can't give back to the grid over a certain amount of money. I question why customers of Avista are not allowed to use wind power because they have paid lobbyists to make a law so that is not accessible.
Well, I would like to say that there are a lot of options available for Avista Utilities customers. We offer a number of energy efficient rebate programs. We offer energy assistance. We work directly with our customers on payment arrangements, and we do work with them to help them be able to manage their energy use effectively and to help them manage their bills. There are a lot of community resources available.
Can you tell me how much Avista has given back, the corporation of Avista, how much have they given back to the customers as far as the dollar amount?
I'm not sure what you mean by give back. Is it
how much
through
has
energy
Avista
assistance?
donated? How much money have they taken from their profits to give back to the community?
We do have the Avista Foundation that makes a number of grants to our community. I can get the exact information to you. About that, I don't have the information at the ready, but I'll be glad to give it to you. So I thank you for the opportunity
Yes,
to visit
thank
with
you for your
this
time. I
evening.
appreciate it. You have a wonderful night.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Yes.
Public counsel
Oh, okay.
who represents ratepayers and small business.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
I'm sorry, I don't know.
My name is Dustin. What's your name?
Sarah Slightly.
Sarah, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Dustin, where are you from?
I am affiliated with multiple organizations, BelieveChange.com. I'm on the board of some other organizations here in town, but I'm personally here tonight on behalf of the community of Spokane, and we're filming for community-minded television.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for being here tonight.
Most definitely. So, the reason we are out here tonight for the people of Spokane, how is Avista regulated? Would you be the person to answer those questions?
I think that somebody from the commission staff could explain sort of the regulatory structure. I can do my best. About half of the utilities in Washington State, natural gas and electric utilities, are privately owned for-profit corporations.
Privately owned for-profit corporation.
And because they operate in a natural monopoly and they provide a necessary service, for a long time, since the early 1900s, there's been a commission that regulates them, so they can't change the terms of service or their rates without getting commission approval to do that. It's a form of regulation for a natural monopoly, like a utility.
So it's a natural monopoly.
And so what we see in this proceeding is that Avista filed a request with the commission to raise its rates. And in that process, the commission will review all of their costs and determine whether or not the rate that they're asking to be able to charge is fair, just, reasonable, and sufficient. That's the legal standard for determining what the appropriate rate is.
Okay.
So right now we're in that process, and we're going about trying to figure out what the appropriate rate for Avista is in this circumstance.
Now, when you break down that process to see what is fair for the people, do you take in consideration what economic state that we're currently in?
That's one component of what gets taken into consideration. There's a balancing that goes on between the interests of a company to remain a viable company, to be able to operate and offer safe and efficient service. And then there's also a consideration of what the ratepayers are able to pay and the benefit of the consumers. Public counsel represents residential and small business consumers. So when we come into these proceedings, we are only concerned with ratepayers' interests. We're not concerned with the company's interests. They're separately represented by their counsel, and they'll be trying to advocate for their interests in the proceeding. My name is Sarah. My last name is Shifley, and I'm with Public Counsel. We're a division of the Attorney General's Office, and we are the advocate and representative for residential and small business customers.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to address you. My name is Michael Kane. Last name is spelled C-A-I-N. I live in the city, and I use both gas and electricity from Avista. However, I'm here today in my capacity as the president of the Spokane Society of St. Vincent de Paul. Though no form of charity is unknown to us, our primary focus here in the Eastern
from a very grounded perspective. We're in a recession right now, and I think that even a $3 increase is quite a bit, particularly for those that are low income, who are on a very strict budget. The impact is that we have on my family, even though I'm lower middle class, we could certainly afford it. Unfortunately, Avista has a monopoly, so even if I couldn't afford it, it doesn't matter because I don't have an option. I have to pay it. And so I just feel like when we are in a recession, we are asked to kind of, tighten our belts and, suck it up. And I feel as if Avista should do the same thing. I don't feel that it's an appropriate time right now, given the economy, to request a rate increase.
I'm a community volunteer I'm a taxpayer. I'm an Avista user on electricity and natural gas. It seems that everybody nowadays are hurting, from senior citizens to people losing their jobs and a dying middle class. And Avista is allowed to continue to be a monopoly. Why is Avista a company? Why can't Avista be a co-op or give back to the people in some way and not just their shareholders? CEO of Avista made over $2.something million last year, over $266,000 a month. I do not think that's fair. Wind power for the city, which would allow citizens to give back to the grid, is lobbied against by Avista and is not allowed in Spokane city limits. Users of Avista Power can only give back to the grid so much before Avista is allowed to eat that up and put it back in their pocketbook. When I Google Avista, I pull up Avista Credit Union, Avista Corporation, all of these things in which do not represent the people, but the corporations. Jobs are not looking good, and Avista has no competition. Avista has no risk. Avista is allowed to continue to be a monopoly, and it continues to be an energy vampire on its users and its community. When is Avista going to give back? That is all.
Thank you very much.
I received your connections newsletter, and I noticed that Avista is the only company out of 3 which you allowed an increase, and Northwest Natural Gas has a decrease of $151 per month, and Puget Sound a $3.30 decrease. When Avista is asking for an increase, does that also include salaries for the CEOs and the employees, or is it mainly for maintenance and purchasing power and so on? Is it for all of it? I mean, do you check into these things, or it's not part of it?
Well, I'll just say briefly again, we're not here to answer questions tonight, but you can put those questions to our staff and to others who are present in the room, and they can give you more details about that.
I have lived in many other states, and I have attended utility commission meetings, and I can only tell you that from my experience, the general public writing letters to the editor or coming to these meetings, hundreds of thousands of people, maybe even millions, believe that a utility commission is really not on the consumer side, it's on the side of the providers, and I wonder why we all have that feeling. Is it, we have a 99% revolt everywhere. You think maybe it has something to do with that we are not listening to prices are going up and we're supposed to vote and pay taxes and pay higher utility rates, we have nothing to say.
It's helping people retain their housing by helping to pay with rent, mortgage, utilities, and power. As a number of people approach us almost every day requesting help with their Avista bills, we're intimately familiar with how difficult many people find it to pay for Avista's services. In 2010, we assisted 550 people in 177 households with their Avista bills, paying the utility $13,767 on behalf of the poor. Thus far in 2011, our Avista assistance is up approximately 110%. However, our assistance and that provided by similar agencies is a drop in the bucket. In 2009 and 2010, Avista executed over 29,190 disconnects in Washington due to inability to pay. Duplications notwithstanding, that means that somewhere near 30,000 households in Washington were unable to pay for their essential Avista services at one time or another over the past 2 years. And it's only going to get worse as federal heating assistance money is on everybody's chopping block, including the president's. The St. Vincent de Paul Society of Spokane opposes Avista's rate increase request for the following reasons. First, we find it inappropriate and unacceptable that such an essential and quasi-public monopoly should compensate its president/CEO $3.25 million per year, over $1,500 per hour, and its next four highest paid executives an average of $878,892 each annually, under any circumstances, but particularly while thousands in our city, county, state cannot afford their vital services due to an economy that's in catastrophic recession. And we do not consider this a question of accounting or finance. We're aware that executive compensation technically derives only a small part from rate payments, but we consider it a matter of principle. We likewise consider it inappropriate and unacceptable that an essential monopoly such as Avista should seek a rate increase of any amount, large or small, while it anticipates a 3% rate of growth, 3% growth in earnings in 2012, and sought, at least initially, a 10.9% return on equity for its shareholders. I recognize that has been reduced in your agreement to 7.62%. While thousands of customers, including many families and children, cannot afford to pay their Avista bills. Given the number of poor among us, the very notion of an increase under these circumstances is indefensible. Until these financial inequities outlined above, which we consider to be matters of social injustice, are corrected, the Society of St. Vincent de Paul, of its own and on behalf of the poor we serve, opposes any rate increases, particularly the ones in consideration now. Gentlemen, thank you again for your time.
Thank you. May I ask you to repeat some statistic? You said in 2010, your organization gave $13,000 for 550 people. Is that what you said?
That's correct. In 177 households.
177 households. Correct. And that was 2010.
Yes.
And in 2011, it's up by 110%. Is that
112% actually.
That means it's more than doubled.
It has.
And where did you get this increased amount of funding from? This generosity of neighbors?
Our donors.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
That completes the list that I have of those who wish to speak tonight. But if there's someone else in the audience who wishes to speak, I will certainly allow you to do so. Is there anyone else? Please come forward.
I'm a single mother, and I currently have 2 children and grandchildren living with me. As of last year, I have my elderly mother living with me as well. We are living on an extremely limited income. And although we utilize your energy assistance whenever we are able, sometimes it's not enough or in time. I'm never deliberately late paying a bill, but sometimes robbing Peter to pay Paul is the only option you have. It's a matter of survival. Avista is asking for a rate hike less than a month before another special legislative session that will include a possible $2 billion in cuts to services that have already been cut by $10 billion in the last 3 years. In 2007, Avista made a net profit of $38.5 million. Last year, they made a net profit of $92.4 million. They have more than doubled their profits in just 3 years. Regardless of whether you consider our economic status a recession or a depression, the reality is that the services being slashed into oblivion, this rate will harm more people than any technological upgrades will bring. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Dina Batten, and I work, spelling my last name is Battin. I work for Rural Resources Community Action, and we serve Stevens, Ferry, Pend Oreille, and Lincoln counties. Last year, we had federal funding of $1.8 million to serve those counties, and we used every single penny. We have people still asking for help after August 30th, and it was with past due bills, with Avista, and with other companies, with oil, with propane. There are just so many people out there right now that are having a hard time. This year, our federal funding is $800,000 for all 4 of those counties currently. We don't foresee it going up. And in light of that, we also held back some of our LIRAP funding, knowing very well that we were looking at a low budget this year. The LIRAP funding that was held back to use to start up this year will be gone in 2 weeks. And we still will come close to serving the people that we try to serve. Our agency is one that prioritizes, so we serve all households that are seniors, have disabled people, or children 5 and under in those households. We also take into consideration their percent of poverty, and the lowest poverty levels are served first. This year, we won't even come close to serving the people that are living on Social Security. There just isn't the money there for it. And I was hoping that Avista would withdraw their rate case when they saw that when they put this in, the economy looked like it was going up. It is not. And our households are living on $700 to $1,000 a month. Rent is $450 and up, usually $550. Their heating costs are usually somewhere around $150 up to $300 a month during the winter. So the ones with the higher income only get like $16 in food stamps. Then they have their Medicaid taken out, which is going up, but they're getting a little raise. And what happens is there's no place for them to put that $8. You know, the $4, the $3, the $8, they can't cut anything except for their food. They can try to make sure they can pay their water bills, which have also gone up in all those counties. They've all seen raises in that. And if you're watching the news this morning, they're saying food prices are going to raise 4 to 5%. And so what I worry about is the fact that they don't have those food stamps. They're just getting very small amounts. I talked to a woman this morning that's 85 years old. She has a shut-off notice. And she received assistance last year, but she's behind on her bill right now, and she's hoping to get to her appointment. And I agree, Avista is one of the best utilities to work with as far as allowing some time, making arrangements. We have a lot of things going for them. But still, it's just so difficult on these households. And also our other utilities in the area, which we have 2 PUDs, we have Inland Power, we have City of Cholula. They have not raised their rates. They've managed to function without putting in a very big raise. Avista is making a higher rate in all of their areas than these other ones are. Okay. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer about our.
I have one. This morning at the public hearing in Spokane Valley, we heard from Mr. Stuckart of SNAP. Does he do for Spokane and do for the rural areas?
Yeah, he serves Spokane County with energy assistance. I'm with energy assistance at Rural Resources, but we also do senior case management, Head Start programs, transportation, all those areas. The demand is crazy. We used to have a few people riding our bus. Now our buses are full and people are standing because they can't afford
Well, maybe you administer both the LIRAP and LIHEAP funds for those counties that you mentioned?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So I got the impression this morning that some of the LIHEAP, federal LIHEAP funds are kind of always are iffy down the road and kind of on again, off again. And so they're just unpredictable.
Yeah, 3% is what we started out with, which would have been $24,000 in 4 counties for what I serve, and I could not put through any grants. That's what the federal funding was. They just raised it to 80%, and that will be spent out the first week of January. And I have LIRAP funding. That's 2 weeks. That'll be in the mix there somewhere. But really, you're talking about the 2nd, maybe 3rd week of January. We will have no money. We won't have emergency services available. All that funding will be gone. And I can say this real true because I've been doing this job for 10 years. And it's just sad. Luckily, the last 3 years, we've had good funding. I've asked for extra funding. Last year, I got $500,000 that wasn't even slated for our campus. And every bit of it got spent. And so the fact is, I'm looking at mid-January for Stevens, Ferry, Pond, Gray, and Lincoln County, the coldest counties, the highest unemployment, and least access to services. And why people move there is because they can't afford to live in the city. The rents are lower, but the housing structures are worse. So, any other questions? Okay, thank you.
I was not sworn in.
All right, well, that's good. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, I am Shane Fender. My last name is spelled Fender, and I am currently a student at Spokane Community College and a probably one of the more younger people here. I just wanted to basically express my struggle that I have seen with our current economy and the ability for someone my age to even try to find a job or multiple jobs to actually build on. And with this, I'm holding down one job, one partial job to try to even live with my family. And that's not allowing me to save anything. That money is going to be put more towards our heating bill than towards me trying to be able to get out of my house, out to live on my own, and to actually grow a career. It really kind of just frustrates me. I don't even know what to say. I mean, with my experience in school, my experience with work that I have, I can't find any jobs. Those jobs, the money that I would get, it would just go towards something that's kind of useless to me. Well, heat, yeah, that's great, but trying to forge a future, I think it's more. And you know, that's all I can really say right now.
Well, no, I really don't. I just again thank everyone for giving some very heartfelt comments, and I assure you that you had a gentleman with this morning's hearing who said, supposing it's a big deal to us, so take it seriously, and we do take this very seriously, and we will consider everything you said, consider everything that your counterparts have said this morning or this noon in Spokane Valley, tomorrow at Pullman. And also, I believe we have upwards of 275 written comments from various Avista customers that have been submitted. We'll be reviewing those as well. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you again, and with that, we'll be adjourned.